Started your succession planning. Here's 4 things you need to think about. Matilda?
So the first one, how do you want to dispose of your assets? And that's a case of when, where, who, how.
Right. Not an easy task, is it?
No, and you've got to remember you have personal assets and business assets.
Right. And it could be company, could be trusts.
Exactly.
Could be many companies and many trusts.
Yes. And I suppose from that is, okay, do you dispose of them now while you're alive, while you have capacity, you can make decisions, or whether you do it through your will when you pass.
And you might be in partnership with someone else.
Exactly.
And so all those assets are intertwined with that person. You might need to unwind all those so you can escape.
Exactly. It's a timely process either way.
Yeah.
So you either do it now while, you're fit, you're healthy, you can make those decisions, you can sort of unravel those,
Or try to
unravel those sort of ties.
Yeah.
Or you leave it in your will, which can, as we know, present a number of
But that's later.
problems.
That's our 4th point,
All right.
Matilda.
Let's get to the next one. So the next one are tax implications.
Well, let's go to the 4th one. Estate
Okay.
planning, right?
Yeah.
So part of the disposition process might actually be a decision to leave it in your will.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And there might be some tax considerations about that too, which is our 2nd point.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got to think about if you're disposing of an asset that's an income generating asset, you've got to think about capital gains tax, and also duties implications. So if you're succeeding, you're handing the land to someone else or another asset to someone else in the family. What are those tax implications? Are there any exemptions that are applicable?
Yeah. Capital gains tax, income tax.
Yeah.
Right? So it's important that those, and duty, of course, as you said, it's important those things get thrown into the mix because they can be quite significant imposts.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's flip to wills and estates.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
We can leave stuff in our will?
We can leave property, we can leave our assets.
Yep.
But sort of going back to, do I actually own those assets? Can I leave the assets?
What can you leave?
What can you leave? And who are you leaving it to? And if you've got a business structure, how are you, you're operating your business through an entity, how are you succeeding that through your will? It's not a simple process.
Yeah, it can be quite difficult when you have trust environments and corporates involved, and when they're trustees as well. So there are some serious issues to consider in that context too. And not least of all too, we're dealing with this whilst we have capacity.
Exactly.
If we don't have capacity,
life is hard.
Life becomes difficult.
So
how do we try and deal with that lack of capacity in an estate planning context?
When you get to estate planning, we always offer the option if you're interested in an enduring power of attorney or an enduring power of guardianship.
Yep.
So they're very important documents and they serve a purpose. So your enduring power of attorney, what we call an EPA, essentially allows you to appoint someone to act on your behalf and make legal, financial and property decisions if you lose capacity or become incapacitated.
Yep.
Your guardianship, your enduring power of guardianship, is appointing someone that will act as your guardian in regards to health and lifestyle decisions, again, if you lose capacity.
Yep.
So they're key documents to have, but it's also a question of who do you trust to be in those positions, particularly if you do have a farming business, a successful, wealthy farming business, who do you trust to act on your behalf and make financial decisions on your behalf?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Part of this exercise too, and the 3rd point, I don't know that we've touched on this yet, is superannuation and life insurance.
Yeah.
There's quite a high level of investment in superannuation vehicles within the farming community, but experience tells me not a lot in life insurance, although there is some.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? How do we deal with those?
Well, they don't typically form part of your estate. So you have to consider, okay, if you've got a superannuation, is it self-managed or is it just a fund by itself?
Retail fund. Yeah.
Who have you appointed as your binding death nomination to inherit your super?
Yep.
So it can fall to the estate. You can nominate your estate to receive your superannuation, or you can name specific person, so family members that will, the trustee of that trust will transfer to them upon your death. But, as we've said, superannuation can have a significant amount of money in them, particularly if you haven't accessed that super while you're alive. So again, it's a question of who do you want to get that asset, or do you want to default the estate to be distributed to your beneficiaries?
Yeah. And part of this exercise too, I guess we should never lose sight of is in the transfer of your farming business and farming land to perhaps the next generation, is perhaps thinking about those people you don't want the estate to go to.
Exactly. Right? So if you have estranged children, you don't have a good family relationship, it's important that you voice those concerns to a lawyer, to us, because they're things that need to be put in your will. We always say it's better to state if there's an issue and you don't want someone to get something, and the reason why. And if that's in your will, then if your will was ever contested, the court's going to know why they haven't been in there. So you've already stated if you're not leaving something to someone, why you haven't.
And also to protect those assets from a marriage breakdown.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks, Matilda. I think we've covered our 4 points. What can people do?
So if you have any questions following this session about succession planning or estate planning, you can contact Phil and myself. Our contact details are on our website or our social media platforms. If this is something that interests you, feel free to reach out to our offices. Thank you.
Thanks.